The moment the gates opened at the Design Center Linz, tournament officials knew they had lost control. Thousands of fans surged forward, their Philippine flags waving, their voices raised in chants of Laban Alex, Tagalog for Fight Alex, that echoed through the Austrian morning. The arena had a capacity of just over 5,000. The crowd outside had swelled to nearly 3 times that number. They had traveled from Vienna, from Salzburg, from across Germany and Switzerland and Italy. They had booked hotels months ago, taken time off work, spent money they had saved for the chance to see their hero compete in her first clay tournament of the season. And then the WTA made a decision that left the tennis world stunned. Citing safety concerns and unprecedented crowd density, the organization announced that Alex Eala would be banned from competing in the Linz Open. Not for anything she had done, not for anything she had said, but because her fans had shown up in numbers that the tournament simply could not handle. The chaos that followed, the overflowing streets, the overwhelmed security, the millions in lost revenue, would become the biggest scandal in WTA history. And at the center of it all stood a 20-year-old Filipina who had done nothing but play tennis and inspire millions.
Oh, it's fantastic.
April 6, 2026, Linz, Austria. The Upper Austria Ladies Linz tournament was supposed to be a quiet affair. A WTA 500 event, the tournament had been running for 35 years, drawing modest crowds, generating modest attention, existing comfortably in the shadow of larger European tournaments. But in the spring of 2026, something changed. The Filipino diaspora had mobilized. An estimated 15,000 fans traveled to Austria for the tournament, not for the championship match, not for the semifinals, but for the chance to see Alex Eala, whose name had been on the entry list for months. They came from Vienna, where the largest Filipino community in Austria resides. They came from Germany, where over 100,000 Filipinos live and work. They came from Switzerland, from Italy, from the United Kingdom, anywhere a direct flight could carry them to see their hero. By the time the gates opened on the morning of April 6th, the Design Center Linz was already surrounded. Thousands of fans had camped overnight, their flags tied to lampposts, their chants keeping the city awake. The arena's capacity was just over 5,000. The crowd outside had swelled to nearly 3 times that number. Tournament officials, who had spent decades building relationships with local sponsors and media, were left scrambling to understand what had happened. The Eala effect, which had already crashed ticket systems in Miami and sparked 48% ticket surges in Dubai, had now crossed the Atlantic, and in Austria, it was rewriting the rules of what a WTA 500 event could be. The tournament was being played on indoor red clay for the first time in its history, a surface change that added another layer of intrigue to Eala's debut. The stacked field included defending champion Ekaterina Alexandrova, Yelena Ostapenko, Emma Navarro, and 2021 U.S. Open champion Emma Raducanu. But none of that mattered to the fans who had come. They were there for one reason. They were there for Alex.
As the crowd outside the design center swelled, panic set in among tournament officials. The arena was already at capacity. Security had been overwhelmed within the first hour, and still the fans kept coming. The WTA, which had been monitoring the situation from its European headquarters, made an unprecedented decision. They would ban Alex Eala from competing in the tournament altogether. The official reasons cited safety concerns and the inability to guarantee the security of players, officials, and spectators given the unprecedented crowd density. The announcement was made over loudspeakers, and the reaction was immediate. Thousands of fans, many of whom had traveled for hours, stood outside the arena, watching on their phones as the news spread. They had come expecting to see their hero compete on the clay courts where she had trained for 7 years at the Rafa Nadal Academy. Instead, they were being told that she would not play at all. The WTA's decision was met with immediate backlash. Filipino fans took to social media, flooding WTA accounts with messages of outrage and disbelief. The hashtag #LetEalaPlay trended globally within hours. Even fellow players spoke out, questioning the fairness of punishing a player for her own popularity. "This is absurd," one top 10 player posted on social media. "She didn't ask for the crowds, she didn't create the chaos, she just played tennis, and now she's being punished for it?" The WTA, facing a public relations disaster, issued a second statement, attempting to clarify its decision. "The safety of players, officials, and spectators is our highest priority. The unprecedented crowd density at the Linz Open created a situation that made it impossible to guarantee that safety. The decision to withdraw Miss Eala from the tournament was made in consultation with local authorities and tournament organizers." But the statement did little to quell the outrage. Fans pointed out that Eala had been scheduled to compete, that tickets had been sold based on her name, that the tournament had promoted her as a headliner. To ban her because too many fans showed up was, in their view, a betrayal of everything the sport was supposed to represent.
The financial impact of the WTA's decision was immediate and devastating. The tournament had sold out weeks in advance, driven almost entirely by demand from Filipino fans. Merchandise sales featuring Eala's name and image had accounted for the majority of all revenue, with fans purchasing jerseys, caps, and towels to commemorate the occasion. The official tournament store had sold out of Eala merchandise within the first 3 days, forcing organizers to place emergency orders with suppliers. When the announcement came that Eala would not compete, the financial model collapsed. The tournament was forced to offer refunds to thousands of fans who had purchased tickets specifically to see her. Merchandise sales plummeted. Concession revenue, the lifeblood of any tournament's bottom line, dropped as fans who had traveled for Eala simply left. The total financial loss was staggering. Early estimates placed the damage at over $2 million in lost ticket revenue, merchandise sales, and concessions. The tournament, which had been projected to be one of the most profitable in its history, was now facing a significant loss. For the city of Linz, the impact was equally severe. Local hotels, which had reported near total occupancy during the tournament week, saw cancellations flood in. Restaurants in the city center, which had stayed open late to accommodate the crowds, found themselves empty. The Linz Tourist Board, which had hired additional staff to handle the influx of visitors, was left with bills it could not pay. "The city has been transformed," one local business owner told reporters, his voice carrying the exhaustion of someone who had been working 18-hour days just to keep up. "We've never seen anything like this, and now it's all gone." The Eala effect had been a phenomenon that tournament directors had struggled to understand for months. When Alex Eala played, stadiums filled. When she didn't, they emptied. The numbers from tournament after tournament told the same story. In Dubai, ticket sales jumped 48% year-on-year, a spike directly attributable to Eala's presence. Tournament director Salah Tulloch admitted, "She attracted a new demographic to the tennis, and the stadium was sold out for all her matches. People were desperately trying to get tickets, but they were all gone. We've never seen anything like it." At the Australian Open in January, Eala's first-round match on Court 6 drew queues that wrapped around Melbourne Park, forcing security to turn away hundreds of fans. Her pre-tournament press conference drew 196,000 views, more than 6 times the views of Carlos Alcaraz and nearly 20 times the views of world number 1 Aryna Sabalenka. In Miami, the ticket system crashed on the day sales opened, overwhelmed by demand from Filipino fans. Her jersey sales accounted for 57% of all merchandise sold, more than every other player in the field combined. But the Eala effect was not just a blessing, it was also a curse. Because when Eala lost, the financial model collapsed. When she was banned, it collapsed even faster. The WTA's decision to ban her from the Linz Open was a stark acknowledgement of the organization's inability to handle the phenomenon she represented. They had spent years trying to grow the game, to expand into new markets, to build stars who could fill stadiums, and they had succeeded beyond their wildest expectations. The problem was that their biggest star was ranked number 45, had never won a Grand Slam, and had just dropped from number 29 after a crushing loss to Karolina Muchova at the Miami Open. The ranking system that measured her at number 45, while the world saw her as number 1, had been exposed for what it was, a flawed metric that valued consistency over connection, wins over wonder. And the WTA's decision to ban her from competing because too many fans showed up was proof that the organization still didn't.
For Alex Eala, the ban from the Linz Open is a devastating blow. She had entered the tournament hoping to begin her clay season on a positive note, to prove that she could compete on the surface where she had trained for 7 years at the Rafa Nadal Academy. Her record on clay is modest. She has won just 3 of her 10 matches on the surface at tour level and has not progressed past the second round in any clay event so far. She made her main draw debut at Roland Garros last year, but lost in the opening round. The challenges are real. Slower conditions, higher bounces, longer rallies, the need for patience and tactical awareness that hard courts do not demand. But Eala has never been one to shy away from a challenge. In a podcast interview with former world number 1 Andy Roddick, she spoke about the need to adjust as opponents are now studying her following her massive rise in the WTA Tour. "Coming into tournaments now, people know me more. There are more videos of my game online. But that's the case everywhere now," she said. "In Indian Wells, they knew me. In Dubai, they knew me. Miami is special because that's where things clicked for me. But at the end of the day, it's still just another tournament." Her approach to the clay season is characteristically grounded. "Anything can happen. I could win the whole thing or lose in the first round. If I don't get a win here, I'll get it somewhere else." Now, with the Linz Open behind her, without having played a single match, she will travel to the Porsche Tennis Grand Prix in Stuttgart, Germany, April 13 through 19, another WTA 500 event, before heading to the Mutua Madrid Open, April 21 through May 3, a WTA 1000 tournament. The ranking implications are significant. Eala had already dropped from number 29 to number 45 after her 4th-round loss to Karolina Muchova at the Miami Open. The 390 points she had earned from her magical 2025 semifinal run expired, and she gained only 120 points for her 4th-round finish. The ban from Linz will prevent her from earning points at a tournament where she could have made a deep run, likely causing her ranking to drop further. But rankings, as she has learned, are not the measure of a champion. The WTA's decision to ban Alex Eala from the Linz Open is more than a single controversial moment.
It is a signal of the organization's inability to adapt to the changing landscape of women's tennis. For decades, the WTA had operated under a simple model. Players win matches, earn ranking points, and are compensated accordingly. The model was meritocratic, transparent, and deeply flawed. It failed to account for the players who filled stadiums, who crashed ticket systems, who brought millions of new fans to the sport. Eala represented that failure. She was the most popular player in women's tennis, and the WTA had no idea what to do with her. They had tried to accommodate her, moving her matches to center court, giving her wild cards she didn't need, building their marketing campaigns around her face. But when her fans showed up in numbers that overwhelmed the tournament's infrastructure, they panicked. And in their panic, they made a decision that would haunt them for years. The backlash from fans, from players, from the global tennis community has been overwhelming. The WTA's credibility, already strained by years of inconsistent enforcement and questionable decisions, is shattered. And the question that no one wants to answer is hanging over everything. What happens when the most popular player in tennis can't play because too many people want to watch her? For Eala, the ban is a setback, but not a career ender. She is 20 years old. She has already achieved more than most players achieve in a lifetime. She has the support of a nation, the respect of her peers, and the love of millions of fans who will wait for her return. The clay season will continue without her in Linz, Stuttgart, Madrid. The WTA just did something unprecedented. Citing safety concerns and unprecedented crowd density, the organization banned Alex Eala from competing in the Upper Austria Ladies Linz Open, not for anything she had done, but because her fans had shown up in numbers that the tournament simply could not handle. An estimated 15,000 Filipino fans had descended upon Linz for the tournament, overwhelming security, crashing ticket systems, and turning a quiet Austrian city into a celebration of Filipino pride. The arena's capacity was just over 5,000. The crowd outside had swelled to nearly 3 times that number. The financial impact was devastating. The tournament faced over $2 million in lost revenue from ticket refunds, merchandise returns, and canceled concessions. The city of Linz, which had prepared for an influx of visitors, was left with empty hotels and quiet restaurants. The Eala effect, which had already crashed ticket systems in Miami and driven 48% ticket surges in Dubai, had now forced the WTA to ban its biggest star from competing. The organization's inability to handle the phenomenon she represented was laid bare for the world to see. Now, as Eala prepares for the clay season, Stuttgart, Madrid,